First of all, thanks y'all for being here. We appreciate all the help you give us every time you're here. Couldn't do it without you. Ensuring food safety is our top priority at Second Helpings. We kindly request that all our volunteers familiarize themselves with and adhere to our food safety guidelines. This ensures that we provide meals that contribute to the well-being of those we serve without posing any health risks. Thank you for your cooperation in maintaining the highest food safety standards. So I'm going to start off with a little bit for the people in the hub/drivers. So starting off, after you sign in for the day and get your coffee and get your snack, if you could do us the favor of starting your day off with hand washing, we would really appreciate that. It often gets missed in the back, but we would love if you could start off your day with hand washing. From there, if you could please not bring clipboards, tickets, anything like that into the restroom, we would really appreciate that. No aprons. Basically, only bring yourself into the restroom. Remember to wash your hands anytime you go into the restroom. If you are just going in there to look at your face, you went into the bathroom, please still wash your hands. It's super important. That's not a food safe area. And then when you go and you're picking up food, you're rescuing food, make sure you're wearing gloves when you're touching ready-to-eat food, but also make sure you wash your hands before you put on those gloves. Anywhere you go to do food rescues should have a hand sink for you. And then also just make sure we're eating snack in the appropriate areas. Food should be eaten in the break room, not in the back over ready-to-eat food. Okay, hand washing. How to hand wash. This sounds really obvious, but we're going to go over it anyways because it's important. So always start with hot water. We're going to wash our hands for 15 to 20 seconds. We are going to get under our nail beds, our wrists, under any jewelry, just making sure you're thoroughly washing all of your hands. And then when you go to dry them, dry your hands thoroughly, take that paper towel to shut the faucet off. You can even then use that paper towel, touch the door, and then your hands are perfectly food safe as you move on. If you're in the bathroom, just make sure you wash your hands. Okay, and then when should you wash your hands? The answer to that is pretty much all the time, but here's a few reminders. Anytime you touch your face, your hair, your clothes, if you touch your cell phone, if you touch raw meat, chemicals, trash, any of those times you need to wash your hands afterwards and get fresh gloves. Besides that, you need to make sure you're washing your hands if you're moving from raw meat to raw meat. You need to make sure you wash your hands if you go on break, eat, take a drink, smoke. Go really outside of the kitchen. When you come back in that kitchen, you need a fresh, wet hand wash. So just pretty much never stop washing your hands. Okay, from there, gloves. So people consider gloves food safe, but we are what make gloves food safe. The gloves are not to keep your hands clean. The gloves are to keep the food clean. So make sure when you are putting on gloves, you do it the right way. Just taking the opening and rolling it down and just pulling it over, trying not to touch the glove as much as possible. And then make sure that you are taking off your gloves to go in and out of coolers, write labels, in between tasks, touching trash, any of that. Make sure you're taking off your gloves, washing your hands, putting on fresh ones after that. And then make sure that you wear gloves that fit appropriately. So if the gloves are too big, you go to chop, you're going to cut a little tip of that glove off. Where's it going? Into people's food. We don't like that. So make sure you are wearing the appropriate size gloves. If they're too small, they might rip. They're not food safe anymore. From there, please remove gloves at the appropriate times and never blow into gloves to get them on. That is something I see a lot of people trying to do, but you'll ruin the food safety whenever you blow into those gloves. Aprons, a couple rules on aprons. So aprons should be taken off anytime you leave the kitchen, basically. If you're going to the restroom, they come off. There's hooks outside the restrooms. If you're going on break, there's hooks outside the break room. And we have enough aprons. If you just want to go ahead and put it in the dirty bin and then get a fresh one after you're done, that's just fine. Knife safety. This is super important for everybody. So when we are using knives, we want to do a few special things to make sure we are staying safe. When we are grabbing the knife, we are grabbing it only by the handle, never by the blade. I'm going to be extra careful with that. And also make sure you are not waving the knife in the air at any point. Even to emphasize a conversation, please don't wave the knife around. And then when you are taking the knife to the dish room or carrying a knife in general, we are carrying it on our side, down, facing downward. So extra safe there, no carrying the knife facing out. I see that a lot for some reason as well. And then make sure when you are cutting, the knife is angled away from you. You just want to make sure you're cutting away from yourself rather than toward yourself. We also do not want to be using knives to open any packages. We have a whole scissor drawer, so please use scissors for that, and be extra careful. And then from there, I want to show you guys what we call the claw. So I am right hand dominant. I'm holding my knife with my right hand with my left hand, taking the tips of my fingers, tucking them under the knuckles. That is keeping me from chopping off the tips of my fingers. So that is a super great tip. All professional kitchens do this, as well as we teach it in our CJT class. So it's a great lesson for everybody. And then also the last thing with a knife, if you are working with a knife and you accidentally drop it, don't be a hero. Don't try and catch that knife. Let it fall where it fall. Take a step back, and when it stops moving, that's when you can go ahead and pick up that knife. Coolers. This is really important this time of year. Our coolers are really struggling to keep up with this hot weather, and we need everybody's help to make sure they maintain safe food temperatures. So if you're going in the cooler, even for like 30 seconds, shut the door behind you. We legitimately just have to keep them shut as much as possible. And also make sure you're looking at the temp before you go in. If it's 50 degrees, you need to give it a minute. So just make sure you're watching your cooler temps. Make sure you're shutting that door behind you as soon as you're in there. Now, if you're in the cooler and you see a spill or any food spills, please let a kitchen coordinator know so we can make sure that gets taken care of so nobody slips and falls. And then also just any food that you're putting in the cooler, make sure it's labeled and dated correctly. Okay, so tilts. This is for anybody on tilts. We want to start off, if you're working on a tilt, you want to check to make sure that tilt is already clean. Make sure that the person who was there before you did their job well. From there, you're going to make sure you clean your tilts in between each task as necessary. If you're doing from rice to pasta, you don't need to wash it, but most tasks you need to do a full wash in between your tilts. When cleaning gas tilts, we want to be extra careful that we are not spraying the hose underneath where the pilot is. That has caused some damage on our tilts. The pilot wire has rusted out, so we just want to be extra careful we're not hose spraying like wild on the underbelly of the tilts. From there, make sure when we are cleaning the tilts, we are cleaning all areas. So obviously the tilt itself, but the outside of the tilt, the lid of the tilt, the panel, the whole bit. And then when we are all done cleaning the tilt, we are sanitizing the tilt. And that's tilts. Okay, a little about eating and drinking here. So there should be no eating in the kitchen unless it is to taste something. If you have a snack, please take that snack and go to the break room. It is not food safe to be eating over ready-to-eat food. That's super important. So please just enjoy any snacks in the break room. We don't mind at all. And then make sure when you are going to taste something from a tilt or even a prep pan, you are using a fresh spoon. You are taking that spoon when you're done, you're putting it in the dish area, but you're also not eating over whatever you're tasting. You want to step away so that there's no chance of you dropping some food from your mouth into whatever you're prepping. And then also with drinking, we want you guys to stay hydrated. That's super important. But if you are using a screw top bottle in the kitchen, you need to take your gloves off, take your top off, take a drink, put it back on, wash your hands, put on new gloves. And that's just because you are touching something that is touching your mouth. So, great way to stay food safe. This is some lunch line food safety. So I got pointed out on Monday that we should have a little bit of this on there. So make sure when you are going through the lunch line, you are getting a fresh plate anytime you're up there, even if you're getting seconds, you just want a little bit more or something, get a fresh plate, nothing wrong with that. And then from there, you want to make sure you are using a utensil to touch any food. Please don't grab food with your hands. We put lots of utensils out. Please use the utensils to grab the food. And then the last thing, unfortunately, I have to say this because we saw someone do it this week. Please don't lick your hands in the lunch line. It's gross. Nobody wants you to do it. Just do it. Maybe lick your hands after the lunch line. I don't know. Okay, and this is the last slide. So that's really it, y'all. Pretty painless. First aid. So if you do cut yourself when you're here, it's okay, it happens. Please stop what you're doing. We have a procedure in place where everything that you're using to cut gets disposed of. Let a kitchen coordinator know you cut yourself. The first aid kit's right there in the back of the cafeteria, as well as a defibrillator if you need that too. So if you need it, that's where it is. And then I just want to remind you guys, as it's hot, stay hydrated. If you're getting overheated, step into a cooler, run your wrists under some cold water, but take a break. Whatever you got to do, just make sure we are not passing out from heat exhaustion, okay? And that's it. Thank you.